Growing up, my family would always vacation down in South Carolina. My grandparents were here, and they thankfully had property on Lake Murray. And so every time we were down here, we always made it a point to spend time on the water. Something that we always made sure to do was go and watch the purple martins gather at Baum Island. I never really cared much for them until I learned one surprising fact that was going to change my life forever. When my family moved down here, I was constantly getting lost in the woods, trying to get my hands on every wild animal I could find. After graduating college, I became a naturalist and started working for my family's garden center, educating our customers about all the wild animals in their backyard. One night during the summer, my family and I are out on the lake watching the purple martins, and my mother tells us that she wishes there were more businesses in the area that would take people out on their boats to come and see the birds. That next summer was when I became Captain Zach. Purple martins are this charismatic songbird. They migrate between North and South America every year. And when they flock together in big numbers, it's sometimes referred to as a haze of purple martins. And every summer they show up on Lake Murray as they get ready to head south for the winter. Purple martins are a cavity nesting species. Normally they nest in old woodpecker holes dug out in dead trees. Martins have adapted to the urban landscape and they have moved into backyard birdhouses. They're a colonial species, so when they nest together you can have tens, if not hundreds, of birds nesting in your area. The tradition with birdhouses began with the Native Americans. There are some hypotheses that claim the tribes would hang gourds around their crop fields to attract martins to eat all the bugs that were damaging their crops. Eventually, Europeans adopted this tradition, and housing martins became part of the culture in early American history. Naturalists like Mark Catesby and John James Audubon made note of purple martins and their houses during their travels across the country. As more people came to settle the New World, they created a problem for purple martins. Whether more land was being cleared for agriculture or for establishing settlements, those natural nesting cavities that purple martins would use were becoming more scarce. When martins would return to their nesting ranges in the spring, expecting new cavities in dead trees, they would come home to a barren landscape. Over time, more and more generations of purple martins began nesting in birdhouses, to the point where humans have managed to hardwire this species to recognize man-made birdhouses as their nesting habitat.
East of the Rocky Mountains, where the majority of purple martins live, they only nest in human-provided nest boxes. They're completely reliant on humans to provide housing for them to nest in.
When I first heard that, I was very caught off guard. Then I thought about all of the purple martins that I had seen over the years on Lake Murray and tried to picture every single one of them coming from a birdhouse in somebody's backyard. Then the thought hit me, what happens to these birds if people quit putting birdhouses out for them?
Purple martins have really been on a downswing in the last 50 years or so. Part of it is certainly related to the fact that they're reliant on humans for providing housing, and humans as a whole, each generation here seems to be a little less in touch with nature, a little less aware of what they can do to help in nature. So There is a decline, I think, in the number of people that put purple martin housing out. It's highly unlikely that purple martins will be able to reestablish nesting in the wild east of the Rockies. There's too much damage done.
There are so many problems with the world's wildlife today, but here's the species that's in trouble, that's in our backyard, and we have the power to actually do something to benefit it. Why wouldn't we take this opportunity? So I decided to embark on a journey across state lines and international borders to understand the mess we've put these birds in, find a natural nesting pair of purple martins, and try to rekindle this dying relationship.
I have this gut feeling that they're on their way back. I can feel it. We have these two houses, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 houses here altogether. Then we have the trendsetter. Yeah, so we have 24 there. We have 12 here. And then there's 4, 5, and then there will be 6, 7, 8. And then there will be the, I think this is the 18 rack. That's gonna go here. 18 here, 12, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I would like to get something else put up on the side of the yard, if I have my way.
While the idea of putting up a birdhouse sounds easy enough, martin housing is a little bit tricky.
That's a challenge for most people. They usually have it too close to structure, too close to trees.
They like an open area. They don't necessarily need to be right on water. They'll find water nearby for, drinking.
Too close to the trees, you got predators, you got owls, you got hawks and stuff like that just perch and attack. So you want to have avenues so that the birds can escape and fly in and fly out.
They also like to be within 100 feet of, a human structure, whether it be a house or a barn or a shed or building of some kind.
Usually about 40 yards from trees is the book answer, but everybody's a little different. I've seen people in their backyard, the purple martin house is 15 feet from the back door, and they're just as successful as one that's 40 yards from the tree. You have to kind of play with it and understand your habitat and your property. You might have to move it a couple of times over the next 2 years till you get that sweet spot.
Once you have your spot picked out and it's in the right conditions, all it is a matter of putting the house together and standing it up.
They love these, and they love these. They love these. I know what it is, they do. They love these. This is something that's very important to me because I find this gourd to be the most fascinating gourd ever, and it is Heather Brooke Chappelle approved. The chirpy nest. That's the best. That is the best to me. I had 8 babies and they all fledged. I had a female. Mind you, her name is Beast. Beast will come in and she will nest here. She has taken both sides and fought off every single male, female, sub-adult, whatever came in to nest. She made sure no one else had anything to do with anything that has to do with the front of the birdhouse, because she's a hog. To be a bird and to be that bossy is kind of fabulous. What I'm looking forward to this season is to grow more as far as me knowing more, understanding them, not just for them being a bird in a birdhouse, because they are like my kids. As soon as they leave, I clean. obsessed. And that's basically what I do. And it's never failed me.
So where do you think your babies are when they're not here in the wintertime?
Well, of course they're in Brazil.
Since martins only spend half the year in North America, there's so much not known about them in their wintering range, and I found an opportunity to go down and join up with a research team, and I just couldn't pass it up.
Purple martins winter here. They don't need to breed, so they don't depend on any of the sort of standard things we're used to thinking they need in the breeding area. They're almost always in at least some kind of group, not just pairs, but dozens or hundreds or even thousands or hundreds of thousands grouped together to sleep in one place where they're safe. And during the day, we don't know exactly where they are or how far they go, but they disperse and they're just out looking for insects.
For one, we found a huge roost of purple martins that we've been searching for several years. It came to be with a visit that Dr. Kevin Frazier, myself, Dr. Jason Fisher made in 2017 to come to the Amazon region and take a boat up the river and try to find what was important about the habitat that we were seeing purple martins use through our GPS tracking technology.
This roost was discovered thanks to a student, a graduate student working on a master's, who advertised using social media that she was interested in finding a roost of purple martins. Here's what they look like, and here's what we expect you to find. If anybody sees anything that they suspect might be that, please let us know. And sure enough, somebody studying the pink dolphins here was shown the martin roost and said, hey, isn't that what Pamela wanted information about? Got in touch with us, and the next thing we knew, here we were witnessing this totally hair-raising, goosebump-causing experience.
Purple martins just showed up, and it was easily twice the size of Baum Island's roost. The fact that all these birds were able to just gather up in the sky and then just descend and then skim over the water and then just boom, done in the bush island. They all just got to the roost real fast. Seeing that, it was insane.
Where we're seeing these purple martins coming into roost is a floodplain ecosystem. We call it Igapo. Igapo is a kind of forest that part of the year is underwater as the river reaches its high flood stage and floods out over the land. So where these birds are coming into roost is a small island where the land is completely covered by water, the tree trunks are covered by water, and the lower branches of the trees are covered by water, and all that sticks up are the tops of the trees. They look like bushes, but the tip tops provide plenty of branches and leaves and substrate for these birds to perch.
And now we're using that particular location as a field site to conduct all of our other research that requires hands-on purple martins. What do you think? Incredible, right? Totally incredible.
Then we went back out in the night and spotlighted, and we were just grabbing birds off the trees, took them back to the Flutuense, processed them, all kinds of stuff happened in that.
We're tracking birds from here to see when they start the migration timing, how long they're at this roost. We've been counting tens of thousands of birds, maybe hundreds of thousands of birds out there. We want to have an accurate count now and see how it changes through the season to see what kind of population size this one roost supports.
I was going to say they're also looking for fecal matter swabs as well as feather and DNA testing. They want to figure out the toxicology, so poisoning in the river and stuff like that.
We are working with viruses and also with contaminations on the feathers of purple martins. We are swabbing them. We're using small cotton tips to swab their mouth or their beak and the cloaca. Recently, people are considering that human health is strongly related to the health of the planet, which is a concept known as One Health. We think it's very important to scan the birds for different viruses and other pathologies that might become a problem for humans or for other animals.
And when they come back here, we're measuring them. And while we're handling these birds, I'm also plucking 2 feathers that go into analyses that we've developed, which enable us to quantify the degree of mercury contamination that bird has been exposed to see if perhaps one of the reasons that purple martins are failing to thrive today as they used to thrive is because of their exposure to mercury in the Amazon.
And what they're doing now is they're wanting to stick MODIS tags on them. It's these tiny little radio pingers.
MODIS is a collaborative network of remote antennas all across North America and South America now, and starting to spread around the world. And it's basically a cellular network for animals that are wearing tags that just emit a radio signal beep. Very much like Shark Week. As the bird pings off a tower, you get that instant feedback.
We also want to find out one of the really impressive things about these birds. As you can imagine, if you put 1 million birds in a bunch of bushes all night long, there's a lot of poop that goes on there. Well, if they're pooping out in the middle of a river, and this river is the Rio Negro, which is famous for being extremely poor in nutrients, all of a sudden there's this input of all this guano. They probably are making a big difference to the whole ecosystem here. They're probably attracting fish, they're probably making algae and things grow. So we're measuring that too, and we hope to have some answers pretty soon. In other words, purple martins might be improving the fish stocks in this river in a totally natural way.
Every single purple martin of the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that are at this roost all were born in somebody's backyard where they put up a house, and each one of them has somebody up north in North America anxiously awaiting their arrival, just on the edge of their seat with anticipation for these birds to come back.
I've dreamt of coming here as a kid. Growing up, either watching television or reading books about this mythical Amazon rainforest. It's like taking a dream that you've had for forever and then finally being able to physically, not just touch it, but physically immerse yourself in it. And the fact that I've gotten to witness these birds do this display on 2 separate continents now, I just feel really blessed. All I can tell you is that the smile that I've had during my time here in the rainforest is about as wide as the Amazon River. As the weather's warming up in North America, purple martins and other bird species will migrate north from their winter ranges to chase the soon-to-be abundant bug life.
Migration is not surprising in birds. Birds, because they can fly, that gives them the opportunity to exploit resources over huge geographical areas. And since we live in a seasonal world, there's a lot of advantage to be gained by being able to move around, to avoid cold weather, and to go to places where there's always food.
Purple martins migrate primarily for breeding purposes. They move north from their habitat in Brazil to take advantage of the flushes of food that take place in more seasonal climates.
The birds that migrate between North and South America are taking a couple different routes Some are traveling up through the Caribbean. Others are going up through Central America. Some birds are going to go to the Yucatan Peninsula and take a flight across the Gulf of Mexico and land somewhere along the Gulf Coast of the United States. Other birds are going to continue traveling up through Mexico and make their way into the western states.
So to prepare, birds will build up their fat reserves, and they're just packing layers of fat right under their skin there. And by the time they get to where they're migrating to, pretty much all of it's gone. So it's kind of like a full gas tank of fat that they fill up before they start their flight.
I think what birds are seeing is something that we can't even imagine. They are able to navigate mostly by reading the Earth's magnetic field. They can also navigate by the stars. They can also navigate by the position of the sun relative to the day. But really the geomagnetic field is probably the main one.
The way that they see it is in dark lines as the magnetic lines of the Earth go.
When birds migrate, most of them cannot just power their way through that entire distance without stopping. They only pack on so much energy, so many calories. Once they've burned through that, they have to stop and rest and refuel.
They have to have these, at very least, specific protected pockets of land and habitat that they can use to refuel along the way.
They're more likely to die during migration than any other point in their lives. So it's incredibly dangerous, it's full of peril.
There are predators all around that are constantly looking for purple martins to eat, and if you don't know the lay of the land, you don't know safe places to be or dangerous places to avoid. So there are risks around every corner. Humans have greatly affected bird migration.
We kill billions of migrating birds a year.
And that they disturb the migration by removing the safe habitat for stopovers. Climate change is also affecting migration in that it's changing the timing of previously reliable weather events, previously reliable insect emergences. Just the timing of everything is getting thrown off.
In the last 25 years, big differences in migration in general with birds. For example, on average, they're arriving 1 to 2 weeks earlier and staying 1 to 2 weeks later in the season.
If we want to truly conserve these species, it needs to be done on an international scale. You can't only preserve and conserve habitat that's of interest to birds in one part of their migration and expect them to be okay. You have to take care of them all along the way down and back.
I need about 10 more pots of coffee. It's like, this is the actual first day of actually, dealing with the kids. I'm so excited though. The 23rd of February. The one bird did, and then the second bird came that afternoon. And then they just take off and left. And they come in at night. Well, one comes in at night, and then the other would take a tree, which worried me. And then last night, he brought in 3 other birds. So we might have 5 today. I'm so happy. I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry. They're like my kids. They're like my kids, and it's just like with any other parent. Literally, I would do anything to protect these birds. Anything.
Are these tears of joy?
Yeah, they are tears of joy. Oh, I'm not a crier. I wait for months and months and months for them to come home, and you get that one bird, and then next thing you know, he's gone for like 4 or 5 days. But then you go through the paranoid stage of, oh my God, did I do something wrong? Well, at least I do. And then the next thing you know, you got 4 birds, and then after that, it just goes up from there. It's kind of cool how they all take off and then they all come back in at 100 miles an hour. 5 is when I first saw them. My mom said they were angels. I had to go see where the angels lived. And I was in the bushes, and the cops found me right as it started getting dark, because I started crying because it was dark outside. But I watched the angels in a castle, a trio castle, and some gourds that were hanging around it on a wooden pole. I guess the guy inside the house heard me crying, and then she called the police, and they were like, "You've been looking for her." But then after that, it was just, I had to see them all the time. You wait until the middle of nesting season. Good God, it's gonna be crazy back here.
So when I first started researching purple martins and started talking to martin experts and cavity nester experts, I always kept hearing about this kind of rumored colony of martins where they're still nesting naturally, and it's down in Orlando, Florida. This could be the last stand for martins in the wild, nesting in the wild. So we're here at sunrise. It's one of the best times of day to see martins at their colonies before they take off for the day and go feed. So really optimistic, really hoping they're still at this natural colony. The reason purple martins may still be nesting naturally at Orlando Wetlands Park is due to the abundance of dead trees or snags all throughout the wetland that are absolutely loaded with woodpecker cavities. Lots of tree swallows out this morning. Purple martin's tinier cousin. Just kind of scanning these treetops of these palm tree snags. Just looking for martin scouts, calling out to their colonies, their family members to come nest. Oh, wait. I see a bird. Oh no. Crap. So, sitting out there on top of these palm tree snags are not just one, but multiple European starlings. Purple martin's arch nemesis, if you will.
European starlings have a interesting origin story here in North America. I believe it was 1891, a group in New York City that just were William Shakespeare fanatics. They set forth with the plan to establish all the birds in America that were mentioned in the works of William Shakespeare. They released some European starlings in Central Park, 1891. Everybody high-fived, they're thrilled we did it. Yes, Shakespeare. And then the European starlings just immediately began to multiply and spread all across North America.
They love to go into nesting cavities, and they will outcompete and fight with the tenants of those cavities and force them out. Sometimes it's battles to the death. Once those former residents are killed, the starlings will either remove the eggs of that resident bird, or they'll kill the chicks that are present in that nest, and then they'll just build a nest on top of that. And this behavior is not just seen in European starlings. Another invasive bird that poses a problem to martins and cavity nesters is the European house sparrow.
Both of them will nest in birdhouses, they'll nest in gaps in your roof, they'll nest in whatever cavity they can find.
They just take over. A lot of times your native species just are outmatched.
I had spent a week walking around this park desperately looking for a purple martin and just found nothing.
So I went to the Orlando Wetlands Park. I went there on 2 separate occasions and looked for the martins, spoke with the staff there, and they hadn't seen them at all that year, and I personally never saw any.
There's some eggs in here. They should be hatching any day. You guys see this. We have 7 eggs in there. This chick won't play in. It was 6 the other day. To be able to come out here and take down the rack and check on, babies that I might be concerned about, it makes me feel like I've got a purpose. Here's some newborns right here. These guys just hatched. Ah, look at the babies. Say hi, Grandma. Oh my goodness. Look at this. See, we are in the chirpy nest. We got 6 babies. Beautiful babies. Oh, that's another thing. When this season's over, these are getting done. And my roof. And of course, I would have to have my colony directly in the sunlight. This is like maybe 50% into the season, and I still have birds that are just starting to lay their eggs. It's gonna be a sloppy fledgling season, but I'm ready for it. When I do my nest check, I just write down the numbers and then I count them and I put them on a piece of paper. And I do like once a week, but I did mine the other day, 3 days ago. So 3 days ago I had 295 eggs, 114 babies, and 152 birds.
And how'd you gather the 152 birds?
Per nest. Yeah. So there will be, of course, 2 birds per nest. It's just I've done it for so long that I remember what days. I mean, I can't remember half the time to brush my hair, but I can remember what day I did my nest check. It's a lot. It's been a different type of year for me. Well, I haven't been out here like I did last year and the year before that and the year before that. They're kind of taking it easy. My other half has been out here a lot. I'm still aggressive when it comes to my birds. Now, when it comes down to it, If there's something out here bothering them, oh yeah, I'm out here. So there's a lot more to martins with me than just
Your love for them.
just my love. They kept me happy. I had to worry about myself as much as I worry about the birds. I had to worry about me. So.
What were you having to worry yourself about?
Abusive relationship.
With your former husband?
Yeah. He's the reason why I am the way I am today physically. Whenever I felt unhappy or I was dealing with a bruise or a cut or a broken finger or broken rib or busted up face, whatever, you know. I just listen to them. And I think about all the love that they need. And the love that they give me, so. The love that they give me is genuine. It's genuine. Everything else is irrelevant when it comes to what I went through and what they put me through. I can always count on being happy. I don't look at my martins and see the bad things in my life. I look at my martins and see them and how beautiful they are and how wonderful they are and how amazing they are. Yeah, at one time they were a therapeutic part of my life. Now they're just an important, happy part. That there's more to life than just being abused. I would forget everything, and yeah, with the abuse and everything, I would just go outside and I would just sit with the birds.
When a purple martin landlord keeps track of the number of eggs, chicks, and successful nests in their colony, they're ultimately taking part in a practice known as citizen science.
Citizen science is just the use of the public to aid in data collection for scientific analysis.
Citizen science has given scientists a very powerful tool for understanding large-scale distributions. The birds have big ranges, they move greatly. Their sheer mobility makes them very difficult to study. But on the other hand, if you have hundreds of thousands of amateur bird watchers recording every bird they see over huge areas, you can actually use those data to reconstruct very accurate movement patterns and even changes in abundance.
Purple Martin Conservation Association has several citizen science projects. Our two main ones are Project Martin Watch, which is basically just asking purple martin landlords out there to record what's going on in their nest, take weekly observations of what's in that nest, what may have happened, and then send that to us at the end of the season. We also have a project called the Scout Arrival Study, and that's as simple as folks letting us know when the first purple martin returns to their colony in the spring. Our data set now has over 100,000 nests recorded in it and over 65,000 reports on first arrivals in the spring. And that's over the span of 25 years.
After seeing Orlando Wetlands Park had been invaded by starlings, I was left pretty disappointed and a bit hopeless. I knew I needed to go see Joe and the folks at the PMCA up in Erie because they are the ones who know exactly what's going on with purple martins and their conservation worldwide. I joined up with the PMCA and volunteered with their field biologists as they conducted research on their purple martin breeding colonies.
So over our purple martin season of research, we conduct nest checks about twice a week for the whole duration of the season. So when those martins start nest building, all the way through every nest has fledged. We also have our banding study, so we band every single nestling that is hatched in our colony. So usually that's a little over 500 nestlings each season.
So we can then do dispersal, so we can get data on how far away they go from where they were born. We have banded birds that have shown up in Connecticut, all the way down to Florida, as far west as Iowa. So really across the range.
Anyone that has a banded bird shown up at one of their colonies can report it to the U.S. Banding Laboratory. Band reading the adults right now. There's quite a few that are unbanded. The birds we band don't necessarily come back to our colonies. So we're just reading the banded birds that are here, and then I'll look back on our notes and see where they were banded. So they probably weren't banded here. They might have been at one of our other colonies on the park.
The thing that shocked me was just how easy it was to do research on purple martins. Right now we're doing nest checks, so just lowering down the houses and popping our heads in, counting all the babies. Pretty easy. You can take chicks out, take measurements, take weights, and put them back, and the parent birds were just unfazed. They didn't care. As I was there, just a lot of people would come and gather around us as we were doing field work, and I got to watch the PMCA team show people what purple martin conservation was really about. Yeah, we were taking fecal samples from nestlings, and we're trying to get a picture of their diet. So from those samples, we can look at the DNA of the insects they eat and get a better idea of what they're eating. And along with that, looking at the growth rate of the young through weighing several nests.
Purple martin declines mirror that of other aerial insectivores that are not in that same boat with purple martins with the housing thing. So there's something else at play. A lot of it can be pointed to a reduction in the quality of their diet and the amount of insects available.
Insects are essential to life on terrestrial Earth. Way back in 1987, E.O. Wilson laid that out in a paper called The Little Things That Run the World. And he was talking about the importance of insects in pollinating plants that are the basis of the food web, that support all of our animals, our decomposers that recycle nutrients. We would not be here without insects. There was a paper that came out that said we have lost 3 billion breeding birds in North America in the last 50 years. We took a look at the terrestrial bird species from that paper and divided them up into the species that require insects and the species that don't require insects. The birds that require insects lost on average 10 million individuals per species. The birds that don't require insects didn't lose any numbers at all.
There are some aerial insectivore studies that are long-term that have shown that species now have to rely on a lot of smaller insects, which are less bang for the buck nutrition-wise. So instead of eating huge, juicy beetles and large meals, they're having to get by with eating a lot of tiny gnats or midges. And you're expending more energy if you're hunting for a ton of little bugs versus if you just go out and you grab one giant insect and chow down. And I always ask folks to think about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, how often you had to scrub bugs off your car windshield, and now how often do you really need to do it? And it's remarkable the difference. They're just not out there anymore.
And one of the primary drivers in those insect declines is the use of pesticides.
This is a real problem in urban settings where I understand people don't want insects around, so they go to Home Depot, buy very potent chemicals right off the shelf and can spray them all over their yards. And if you're doing that just so you feel like there's less insects for your children to encounter or things that might bite you, you're having a huge negative impact and removing a very important food source for native birds and, and other wildlife that depend on those insects to eat.
And one of the worst ways we hurt insects around our home is when we spray for mosquitoes.
Mosquito fogging, it typically is a pyrethroid-based insecticide. And the mosquito companies will tell you, well, it only kills mosquitoes. That's not true. It kills all the insects it comes in contact with. And that includes the bird food. What's interesting about mosquito fogging is it doesn't control mosquitoes. You don't control mosquitoes in the adult stage. You control them in the larval stage. It's a temporary kind of feel-good exercise. It looks like you've done something to knock down the mosquitoes in your yard.
And not only are we spraying pesticides around our home, but we're also spraying them all over our food in the form of our crops. But one of the most harmful pesticides out there to birds are systemic pesticides.
A systemic pesticide is one that is taken up by the target organism. It's typically a plant taken up by the roots, or you can inject it into the plant. And then it's spread throughout all of the plant tissues. So once the systemic is in the plant, it becomes toxic. So anything it nibbles on any part of the plant will get that pesticide. If it's strong enough, it kills it. So an insecticide, no matter what kind it is, that decreases insect populations has the potential of harming birds.
All right, so we got the data off the GPS tag, and now we can finally take a look at it. That martin had this tag on all the way down to Brazil over the last year and back, and for the first time we could see what it did.
Oh wow.
So that actually is, I think, the first time we have a GPS track in this detail for the entirety of its migration down and back, which is awesome. So you can see when it left here in Erie, and it went down pretty quickly to the coast and jumped.
Yeah, it booked it.
Yeah, it really got going, and then it did a straight shot.
Wait, go back up. That's Lake Murray right there.
Yeah. So that it actually, let's see, that was a day or a nighttime fix. Yeah, so that was in the evening. It was right by Lake Murray on August 23rd of 2018. So
I could have went to one of my tours.
Yeah, it very well. It's probably pretty likely that it spent the night there at a roost. Probably, all the martins would be heading to that Lake Murray roost. So I bet this bird was there on August 23rd.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
This purple martin, tagged in Erie, made a pit stop in my backyard on Lake Murray while flying all the way down to the Amazon. It's just truly something special when you get to see connections like that, and something I'm certainly going to carry with me. It's been a good couple of weeks up here in Erie working with PMCA, and just walking away from this really encouraged that there's an organization that has a whole network of people that are willing to dedicate their time, energy, money, all towards the conservation of purple martins. It's a hobby in this community. Like, how cool is that? Conservation's a hobby. It's good to know there are a lot of people out there that do this kind of thing. I invite more people to be a part of this, because this is special. You might not know it or not, but this is something definitely special. While in Erie, I had heard talk about a super colony down in Alabama that was run by a grandfather and grandson team who claim that their purple martin colony is the world's largest purple martin colony.
These birds are still feeding them babies, ain't they? I bet this time next week, if all them's flew, ooh, there will be some birds around here, won't there?
I've always been around them. My neighbors always had birds, older people, and always used to have them around their garden, and I've been around them all my life, and had this fella one time to take me and show me some of these satellite dishes, and got me interested in them, and that's when I began to put satellite dishes up. I just kept putting them up, and the birds kept coming.
My grandfather, he put up the first pole back in 2001, and he started asking me to start helping him put up poles, and then he asked me to eventually take over the colony one day when it come time, and that sort of got me interested in them and helping him take care of them.
It's pretty unique to spread out a little straw or a little hay and see these birds start making preparations to raise a family. Last year we had 889 nesting pair, and we think this may be the year we're going to have 1,000 nesting pair.
Well, we'd like to be full capacity, which would be 2,209 right now.
They throw on this big event every year called the Purple Martin Jamboree.
Being able to have the Jamboree for several years now, and that will always be sort of a special memory.
It brings in martin landlords from Florida, Minnesota, Georgia, Illinois, Kansas, Virginia. It just goes to show you that there are a lot of purple martin lovers out there, and they love to get together, and they love these birds, and they love to celebrate them together.
Anybody, anywhere is welcome at any time to drive through here, look at the birds, make pictures, and act like it's at home. Make yourself at home. I'm a lucky man to have something like all this. I'm very, very fortunate. Lord been good to me. It's all about the birds. That's what it's all about.
I was laying in bed, and I just had this bad feeling because we have cameras in our room on houses, and I had this bad feeling, and I looked up, and there was a great horned owl sitting right on top of that rack right there, and I came outside, it didn't move, and I was looking at it, and I was like, how graceful are you, but you got to go. And I clapped my hands and it took off. But about 20 minutes later, it came back. But this time I came running out the back door, doing front handsprings and clapping my hands, and it took off. When you're like in a small area, like how small my yard is, it's so easy for a hog to come in and take your bird if you don't have numbers.
Purple martins face predators in the air and on the ground. Their nesting habitat is up on poles, traditionally trees, and those are vulnerable to anything that would climb those poles. So snakes, raccoons, those are major predators of purple martins.
Other birds, such as Cooper's hawks, during the daytime are a problem for these birds. The Cooper's hawks are a bird-eating predator. And then we have things like great horned owls at night, who will come visit these colonies at night and try to reach in and grab babies that way too.
And their populations are increasing, which is leading to more pressure on purple martins. Purple martins have to be aware of their surroundings at all times.
A lot of purple martin landlords take measures to reduce predations down to 0 for their season. However, at the end of the day, these birds are still wild animals, and nature is still going to find a way. Unfortunately, Heather had a family emergency that she had to leave and go take care of, and she was unable to finish her purple martin season. And during that time, a Cooper's hawk had moved into the area and predated heavily on the fledgling purple martins that came from Heather's colony. Around midsummer, purple martins will begin heading towards sites like Baum Island, where they gather by the thousands in preparation to migrate south for the winter. These sites are known as pre-migratory roosts.
The actual reason for pre-migratory roosts is kind of a mystery. It's hard to get in the headspace of a purple martin and think like them, but we have some theories on why it might be the case. Purple martins are obviously a social animal. They're colonial in their nesting habits, and that may be also carrying over to this behavior for pre-migratory roosts, just getting together and kind of socializing. Obviously, there's safety in numbers, and they typically will choose roosting locations that have some sort of inherent protection to them from predators, often an island or something surrounded by water or something surrounded by open habitat to where they can see if a predator is coming.
Baum Island is significant because when scientists first began taking estimates of the purple martins at the island, they were getting estimates up into the 500,000 range. It is arguably the largest pre-migratory roost in all of North America, and it's quite possible that it's the largest pre-migratory roost in the world. It was first discovered by a couple that was out boating.
In '88, we stayed out one night and we saw all these birds, and they would dive around and they'd swoop up again and dive around and swoop, boom, they're gone, went to bed. Where'd all these birds come from? All these blackbirds in the sky. Birds were purple martins, and they were beautiful. And that's when we knew that we had something that we had to talk to somebody about. We got in touch with the Department of Natural Resources so we could get the island sort of off limits for people at night, because people were going on there with their dogs. So we did that, and Audubon Society came on board. SCNG decided they would put up a sign. They didn't want to limit the use of the island to people during the daytime, but they didn't want them there with their dogs and loud noises when the birds were coming in.
And the cool thing about these sites is that a lot of them are found using NexRad radar. In the early hours of the morning, as all these birds are taking off, you'll see what looks like a weather system form up, and then it just becomes a donut and then just dissipates. It's very exciting, and it's gonna aid this species a whole heck of a lot. While roosting season was well underway in the eastern half of North America, I knew my window to find natural nesting martins was closing, and I'd have to wait a whole other year until they returned. Joe had tipped me off about the 2 western subspecies of purple martins and how they still retained their natural nesting instincts. It was now or never, and I grabbed my gear and headed west.
So at first glance, especially if you're visiting the desert, it can seem pretty barren and dead, but the more time you spend in the desert, you realize there's life everywhere. Our purple martins tend to be in places where both cavities are available, and they tend to really like cavities in saguaro. The desert purple martins that we have down here in southern Arizona have a completely different migration strategy. They seem to hang out together as a population away from the other martins. So there's even some evidence that they migrate on a different pathway, maybe even winter in a different place in Central and South America. But they certainly arrive at a very different time. They come later, much later into the United States than the other martins. These ones here in Southeast Arizona don't even arrive until May. They're very, very tied to the monsoon rains.
I made connections at the Tucson Audubon Society and got to go out to their properties and search for martins on their lands.
It is hot as hell out, oh my God. Like, Columbia's being known for being famously hot, but like, this is awful. I'm sure the winters here are great. Look how big my forehead is. But we're doing good. I mean, we're in the place we were recommended to go, so it's just a matter of finding some saguaros, some good looking saguaros, and a stroke of luck.
But I didn't have my expectations too high, and as I'm walking this trail, I just hear it. And it's a purple martin calling, flying overhead, and I'm looking, and I was like, oh shit, it's here.
All right, so we're out here at a private nature reserve, and I'm pretty sure I just found potentially a cactus that martins are nesting in. It's about 100 yards that way. It's a big, tall saguaro, lots of arms on it.
And then I just track this one, and I'm just running up and down these trails, just trying to keep an eye on it. It's nice in the Southwest, there's no trees to get in your way.
Just hoping I don't step on a rattlesnake trying to get to this saguaro. I also gotta be careful walking around out here. Everything that is a plant out in the desert has thorns on it.
And then all of a sudden I just see it fly behind this one large saguaro cacti, and I was like, that has to be it.
All right, tell me where you're going, Mama. Show me your nest. Show me your nest, Mama. Show me your nest. Show me your nest, Mama. Where are you going? Take me to your nest. Show me where your nest is. Come on. All right. All right. Okay. All right. Wait. All right. She's on a cactus. She's on a cactus. She just went in. She just went in the hole. She just went in a cavity. Dude, we freaking found it. We found a martin nest. I just got to get over there.
And I slowly, silently creep up, and I just start examining the cavities on this thing, and the next thing I know, I see its head pop out. And I just see it, and I was just like, no way, this can't be real. It was a purple martin nesting in a natural setting. I spent so much of my life just seeing these birds in artificial settings. Seeing this in a natural environment was just shocking to me.
I want to be more jovial. Is that the right word? I don't know. It might be the right word. If it's not, we'll learn. We'll go with it. I want to scream and jump for joy right now. However, I can't. One, we're in kind of a neighborhood. Two, I don't want to influence or disturb the nest or disturb the wildlife around it. But whew, guys, we freaking did it. We freaking
did it. We found natural nesting purple martin.
And I just start filming, and I'm recording, and it's just coming out, and then it flies off, and I just look at it, see it take off, and it's gone. I was just like, hell yeah, we just did that.
Seeing those birds just in a natural nesting setting, like that's just hope for the species. At least on the habitat loss front. Because like, if eastern martins just like, if we quit putting housing out for them, they go extinct. We still have the species out here in the west, got the saguaros. And the saguaros are loved and embraced by the people out here. So, this is just great stuff.
We freaking did it! First day too. Just like, what? It was day one too. That was the crazier part. Just day one, we were able to knock this out. As we're there, we just spent the next 2 weeks just roaming the desert, and literally everywhere we went, if we didn't see a purple martin, we heard one. And so they're just everywhere. I was just so shocked and just so happy to have just been able to accomplish this goal.
The saguaro is so thick and so cool and humid inside of a nesting cavity because they're just so thick and full of water, a saguaro cactus, that makes it really attractive. It's going to be more climate controlled than a wooden birdhouse would be. So they may not even use a martin house that was hung out here in the Tucson, in the deserts of southeast Arizona, because it's just not going to be as climate controlled as what they need. But I wouldn't think humans would ever be able to pull off making them completely dependent on artificial nesting cavities, because natural nesting cavities are so abundant and so effective for them.
These birds here on the West Coast, they are the last of the natural nesters from the American Southwest all the way up to the Pacific Northwest. They're what's known as an insurance population. So if tomorrow people quit putting bird houses out for purple martins entirely, these birds here in these populations, they're gonna be the ones to recolonize the East Coast.
It does seem to me possible that some of these other populations, because there's resiliency in the population where some don't succumb to whatever disaster took out the East Coast ones, that you get over time pioneers from these other populations venturing into this sort of new opportunity where there's food resources there that other martins aren't utilizing.
We did it. It was honestly just really exciting because like we're out here in the deserts, we're out here in a habitat that we thought martins might barely be present. Then like first day we found them, and not only did we find them, but they were all over the place. It's really encouraging to see a species so close to home flourish out here where humans aren't really doing anything to mess with them. And so it's just, I mean, for me, it's hope. Just knowing that if we can protect kind of these last remaining wild places, we can start protecting everything at home. We came here with a goal, looking to find natural nesters, and we found way more than we were looking for. And on that note, I'm ready to get home and go see my birds again. Purple martins have been around for a couple million years now, and it's only in the past 400 years that we've put them in such a precarious spot. After meeting such a diverse array of characters, I'm left hopeful for these birds, as these people refuse to give up and they inspire everyone they meet in their mission to conserve purple martins.
Purple martin conservation and purple martin populations are clumpy. It's something that catches on a local level and it spreads to a community. So-and-so establishes a purple martin colony in his backyard, and it's the first one in an area. Well, the neighbors see that. They realize how great it is. He tells them the story about purple martins. Then they put up purple martin housing, and it slowly grows until you have this cluster, sometimes an entire community or a town that is just an island of purple martins, and they're surrounded by habitat that hasn't caught on yet. They're an integral part of our ecosystem, so we can't lose them. If it's something as easy as putting up a birdhouse to keep a species going, then you've got to do it.
Go watch birds a little bit. Enjoy the birds in your yard, and then think about, do you want them to go away? No. So what do you need to do? You need to be conscious of how you pollute, of what you consume, of what you teach your kids. And if you worry about birds, if you take care of birds, you're taking care of the whole planet, you're taking care of yourself.
If we all do a little bit, it has a huge impact on what's available for birds in terms of habitat and how many birds can be supported. So small choices that we can make, things that we can all do individually, can add together to make a huge positive impact for birds and wildlife.
After everything that I had gone through, when I come out and see them, they make me happy and they make me smile and they make me feel good and they make me feel something. If there's anything in the world that keeps me feeling great, it's my martins.
It's funny about the things we take for granted in life because everybody loves these birds. They come every summer to go see them, and we don't really know what the story is. And the story with these birds took me halfway around the world and back. It's not that hard. People hear the term conservation, they think lions and tigers elsewhere in the world, but you can start to make a difference in your own backyard if you really give it a shot. And purple martins are the best example of that. As for me, wherever life takes me, I know I'm gonna have a purple martin house up in my backyard. And that's gonna be my one small deed that's gonna help save the world.
Alright, so it is the we're within the second week of May, and I am down at my parents' house because on May 4th, my parents called me and told me we had a purple martin hanging out on our gourd rack. I was skeptical, then I came down here and lo and behold, there's a subadult male just chilling on our gourd rack. And he's been coming back almost every morning, so I think we gotta take her on this colony. Just kind of this great poetic conclusion to this journey.